Morning.
Hi there. I had to check my microphone after last week's microphone shenanigans. I am officially not allowed to manage my own mute button.
Do
So,
you have the green circle?
you know what? It's a fair question, and yes, I do. But
Excellent.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't at the beginning. So I know. Don't worry,
I need a
partner.
little green flashcard to just like give the visual cue. Like, we green?
So ridiculous. So ridiculous I am with the technology. All right, but I am Jill Bates Moore. I am one half of Dahlia Law Group, and you are
Alicia Holland, the other half of Dahlia Law Group.
y'all. This is episode 9 of the Legacy Livestream. Welcome. I cannot believe that we have been at this for 9 weeks. We have done, I guess this is our ninth installment of of this live stream. We have done, I don't know how many segments of the crossover. We do every other Thursday. We do a crossover segment designed to highlight the places where the law of legacy intersects with other areas of law, and we have been doing that most recently with our good sister friend Bianca Jordan at Brazen Legal in Boston. She's a national immigration attorney, and I say national because immigration is a federal practice. So even though she's located in Boston, she can help with immigrant needs all over the place. And so between those two streams, we are like we are officially on the internet, Holland. What does that
Is
mean?
bona fide interneters.
I can't even. I cannot even. Shauna's here. Hey, Shauna, how are
Hey,
you?
Shauna.
She says she's multitasking, which, yes, I totally
Tell
get
me
it.
about it, friend.
I know, right? I know. Well, we introduced ourselves, but I don't know if we introduced our practice.
We did not.
We are legacy and estate planning lawyers in Oakland, California. And excuse me, I do that work because, excuse me, I do this work because I see us in the future. I see black people in the future. I see other people in the future too. Y'all can come on. But I am black. And so I'm talking about me. Um, yeah, and we deserve to have a legacy to meet us there. And it's not always just about the stuff, though in American capitalist society, stuff is important. But it is not the most important, and it's certainly not the only important thing. So I am here to do this work to make it accessible um, for us for those reasons. Why are you here?
I am here because I love this work. I love helping people do this work. I have seen what it looks like when things go well, when somebody is sick, or we have had somebody transition on, and I have seen it go not so well. And to know that it is possible to have the well set up, I like being able to be in a position to do that to help people get there. And then from the other side, when it hasn't gone so well, being able to be there in a seat of compassion to help people try to navigate how to make that get from where we are of not so well to shifting towards we may not get to well, but let's get to better.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And what we're going to be talking about today is continuing a series of sort of legacy and estate planning tools basics, right? Like the nitty gritty of the tools that we use on the estate planning side of our work, introducing them, what they are, why you need them, because yes, you do, um, and what they can do, right? What stress they can alleviate, what room they can give, right, and what ease they can help to provide in those situations where, Alicia, like what you were talking about, where maybe it's not great. It's not great right now, but we can we can make it better. So, um, Naomi is here saying hi. She says she can barely hear me, so I'm gonna move the microphone. I'm gonna move the microphone closer to me. Is that and tell me if that's better. While she's doing that, um, I am also gonna double check. Just gonna double check my microphone feed to make sure that.
It was nice knowing you, Cleveland.
Okay, at least you say that because I'm about to push a button.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
That's
See
okay.
you next
Don't be like
week.
that. Don't be like that. Wait. I can totally do it. I can do it. I can do it. While I am proving, while I am proving that I can, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we are talking about today?
We are talking about the anatomy of a financial power of attorney. So, we talked about this a little bit in our first two episodes, I believe, and those were part of your emergency toolkit. Now, similar to something we talked about last week we talked about the guardian nomination and we talked about it in more depth than we did in the emergency toolkit, which is the I am going out to this protest or this demonstration, and so I need to have some basics in place.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to get a little bit more involved with the financial power of attorney. And when we have a little bit more time to sit with it more thoughtfully than we might have had in that emergency toolkit plan.
Wait, who is we?
What do you mean, who is we?
Like, well, we didn't think about it before, but now that we have a chance to think about it, we did think about it.
We did think about it, but emergency situations versus being able to sit with it a little bit longer, you might have a different plan in place.
That's fair. That's totally fair. And
How are you today?
I'm going to seal clap. I'm seal clapping right now because Lisa said that I fixed the sound.
Awesome.
I went into a setting and I fixed something.
Hey.
Look at Granny. That's what I want you to know. Grannies are on the internet taking plastic off of the couches and the chairs in the living room, and I am fixing things in settings. So I'm uh I'm good today. I am making room. I think that's where I am. I'm making room and giving some grace. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm all right. I am feeling a little scattered, but it's a manageable scattered. So I'm trying to get a lot of things done today and kind of have to seemingly be in a couple of different places all at the same time with my head in a couple of different spaces at the same time. And so kind of dipping into my brain buckets and trying to focus in each one of them. But it doesn't
Yeah.
feel, at least right now, knock on wood, it doesn't feel overwhelming, but I am aware of it.
Got it. I totally understand that. Excuse me. Yeah, this week has been bananas. I looked at the calendar and
Bananas.
I was like, who is gonna do all this work? Like, what in the, oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah, it's the laughter that I had yesterday when somebody messaged and said, "So let me know when it's a good time to talk this week, and I'm gone next week." And I'm like,
And I don't want to be heard to complain, right? Because it's a very real thing in the entrepreneur life that not being busy is actually not always great. Like sometimes
very
it's fantastic, sometimes it's exactly what you need. But but sometimes it's exactly what you don't need. Um so yay. All right, let's outline this thing. Let's outline how we are going to be talking about this. I'll take this point. So we will go over, and if you're taking notes, and if not, it's not too late. Grab something to write with. We'll introduce the power of attorney for so that we're all in the same conversation. We'll talk about what it is. We will talk about why it matters and who needs it. We will talk about what you should be thinking about, right? In terms of what to put in it, like how to approach it. But then we'll also talk about what exactly needs to go in it in order for it to be equipped to do what you need it to do. And as always, we will try to give you a real life homework item, a practical item that you can do with or without, importantly, without a lawyer. And then and of course there's always time and room for questions. So if you have questions, don't be shy about asking them. And as we always do, we check in, and we really check in to see how we are doing, and we mean we in the whole global sense. So tell us, how are you doing while we get started here? So what is this thing? What is
so.
introduce a power of attorney to the people who don't know? Tell us what it is.
Yeah. So in particular, what a power of attorney is a document where you can name somebody to be your agent. And so this is naming a person to step into your shoes. Now, because I know you are all excellent students, you were here with us last week where we talked about a nomination of conservator or guardianship. And there we talked about a somebody else standing in somebody's shoes. In that instance, it was a court appointment. This is before we have to get to that level of court appointment, while I have capacity to say, if something is going on with me, this is the person that I want to be able to step up to speak on my behalf, to make decisions on my behalf. Now, the particular type of power of attorney that I'm talking about right now is something that's called a power of attorney for financial and property decision making. So this is going to be different than the medical decision making. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about the Advanced Healthcare Directive, and that is essentially a type of power of attorney, but it is a medical power of attorney. So we appointed somebody to stand in our shoes for medical and healthcare decision making. Now we're shifting and talking about the money with the financial and property decision making. So this is going to be for things like who could access money if you needed somebody to be able to go to the bank to get access to money on your behalf. It's also going to be, we always think of these things in an asset type of picture of who can get to my money, who can help with my estate plan, those sorts of things. But an important thing about a power of attorney, particularly for financial and property decision making, it might be about either a benefit or an obligation. So, not necessarily a thing that's financial based. And so, what we may be thinking about is something is going on with me and I need somebody to talk to a government agency on my behalf, like the IRS or the Social Security Administration, Medi-Cal, or in California, we call it Medi-Cal. In other states, it might be Medicaid, Medicare, things like that. And so the agent that you name in your power of attorney is going to, you are appointing so that if they needed to call on your behalf, they would be able to present that paperwork so that agency know that they are the person that they can speak to about getting you set up with what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so for those of you who have been tracking with us over the past several episodes, and for those of you who will go back and watch them because now you are intrigued, you might have noticed a shift, right? In this particular series, we started talking about powers that are personal, that are about your person, right? So we talked about the Advanced Healthcare Directive, which introduced for us the concept of a power of attorney, right? Because you'll remember that the Advanced Healthcare Directive contained powers of attorney for healthcare decision making and personal care decision making. And we talked about the HIPAA authorization, and like Alicia just mentioned, the nominations of guardians and conservators. This conversation is the place where we begin the pivot to start talking stuff. And just a heads up that next week's episode we will actually we'll actually recap. We'll we'll will bring us complete up to date so far. It'll be chock full of practical tips, and so don't worry, do not worry. So what is the significance of the power of attorney? I think Alicia has already really eloquently explained that. I want to talk about like who needs it and start talking about what should be in it. And as I sit here pensively thinking about who should have a power of attorney, I want to go ahead and give you the spoiler alert. Everybody, everybody, every adult who is at least
All of y'all.
age 18 needs a financial and property power of attorney. And the reason is for all of the reasons that Alicia just explained, right? That there are times when you will need somebody to stand in for you, right? This tool is a power. It is about the power to speak on your behalf. It is about the power to access your property, your financial accounts, the business of you, right? The business side of your life, and this is huge. I know I sound calm about it because I'm just feeling calm today, right? There's incense burning in the background, and that makes me calm. But I am not calm about this tool. Like this is one of my favorite tools, and here's the deal. The reason is because none of us is exempt from the human experience. None of us is exempt from the human experience. Anything can happen to any of us at any time. The universal energies don't have any respect for our age, for our current situation of health or ability, right? And so we may need help at any time. So that could be for convenience, right? As Alicia was describing, it could also be for need, as Alicia was describing. Here's what I mean. If I am in a situation where I am completely healthy, but I have, as we started talking about, gone out to protest, to action, or to activate on behalf of justice for myself and other people, I am subject to being detained. It is a thing that people who put their bodies on the line in that way go out knowing, right? Well, in these days and times, we don't have any way of knowing how long I might be detained, or anything really, right? Like in some places, think Portland, think New York, some of this stuff is, I mean, it's beyond scary. And so I might need somebody, to be able to see about me in a particular way. I might need them literally to handle my stuff, and actually in service of me, right? In order to get to me. I could also be hit with a health situation that nobody anticipated. And as a result, I need somebody to take care of my financial affairs, not just to pay my property taxes or to, to do some of the things that readily come to mind, like, like talking with various agencies or whatever, but to literally access my checking account to take the money to pay for my care. Like something that is seemingly mundane or small is critical in situations like that. And so that's why I say everybody, and the impact of having this tool in place can't be overstated. This tool can keep you out of a courthouse. Oh my goodness. It is the bypass the courthouse tool during your lifetime. Here's the deal. If I lose capacity, right? And when I say lose capacity, I'm talking about in the broadest sense, right? So I don't have mental capacity, or nobody can find me, right? Or nobody knows what's going on with me, whatever. Somebody needs to be authorized to access or to handle my stuff. If I have not authorized anybody, and a durable power of attorney is a way that I is one of the ways that I can do that. If I have not authorized anybody, then how do they get authorization? They have to go to court. And when somebody goes to court in order to get authorization or power over another person or over another person's stuff, then, like we talked about last week when we were talking about guardianships and conservatorships, the court is highly involved, right? It is highly involved. They have to appoint people to come and check out the financial situation. They have to appoint people to check out the personal situation. They have to appoint people to value the property. They require you to do accountings on a very regular basis. The court has to approve those accountings, blah, 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 blah. Are you tired of hearing me talk about it? Imagine, if you're tired of hearing me talk about it, imagine how you would feel if you had to pay for
Yeah, that part. Because
it. Imagine
that's
it.
the other key thing is each of those steps that you just mentioned of we're going to court, and if somebody is coming out to check on the situation and somebody coming to value the thing, and then the accountings and the approval of the accountings and all of those steps, every one of them comes with a fee.
And they get their money first.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so if you don't want to hear about it, imagine having to do it, and to have to pay for it. Let's avoid that.
Please
This,
and thank you.
let's just avoid that. So, let's talk about what needs to go in the power of attorney, because you might be blown away at how dead simple it can be. You can have powers of attorney that are super complicated. You absolutely can, and some situations require, right? But not all of them. So let's begin with simple. Alicia's going to tell us how simple it can possibly be.
So, the first thing that your power of attorney needs to have is your full legal name. So, whatever your identification says and is the one that you use on all of your official papers, your bank, all those sorts of things, you want to have those in there. Another thing that you want to have is if by chance you have different versions of your name that you use. So maybe you switch last names from married name, maiden name, different things going on. And so you have some things in one name and some things in the other name. Put both of those. So if my name is Alicia Holland, also known as Alicia Jones, then I'm going to have both of those things in there so that whichever one it comes up with, they can identify that that's me and my stuff. I'm also going to put the people that I want to have step into my shoes for me. So I'm going to identify the person that I want to have as my primary agent. And then if I'm going to have some alternate folks, then I just want to make it clear the order that I intend them to serve in. So my primary agent, my first alternate, my second alternate, and it's ideal if I can also include the address for each of those people as well, so that it is clear that we are talking to the right person, so that when they show up to say, I am the agent of this person, and the well meaning institution says, we need to see your ID for you to prove that you are, in fact, that person. If they can show an ID with their name and address that matches what my paper says, all the better. If there is anybody that I do not want serving in this role, somebody that is disqualified, then I certainly want to put that in there as well. This becomes particularly important if the person who would seemingly be your next of kin is one of the people that you don't want to serve, so that we can make it explicit. I did not pick this person. Even if the law wants to try to default to this person, I say no. That can also be helpful so that if there is a situation where you end up needing to go to court for some reason, it is always helpful to the court to have some little breadcrumbs and nuggets to just know that they are heading in the right direction. So your disqualified person decides to raise a stink and try to get in and muck things up, it is just helpful for even the court to see on the paper, let me take a second look at this, because this person that's trying to say it should be me and all this thing and that's raising all the issues is the very name that on the paper when the person had capacity said not them. So if there's somebody that fits the bill for that, put it in there, not you. Then the next thing is one that when we talked about the power of attorney and what it was, and Jill just mentioned the situation where our capacity, something is happening with it, we need to specify if our power of attorney is something that is called durable. And that word durable is really important when it comes to a power of attorney. What happens with a power of attorney is I am appointing somebody to be my agent as long as I have capacity, unless I make it durable. If I make my power of attorney a durable power of attorney, then it will specify that even if I become incapacitated, I still want my agent to serve on my behalf. The reason for that distinction between if it's durable or not has to do with who your agent is responsible to. As an agent, they are always responsible to the person that is called the principal, and you, the person who is creating this power of attorney, is the principal. And so the reason that they make you specify that it is a durable power of attorney is because the person that I am supposed to report to is the very person that does not have capacity to understand my reporting. And so I need to specify that I want it to be durable. So even though I can't receive, interpret those reports, I still want this person standing in for me. And so the power of attorney that we are talking about, of having that plan in place so that you can be in the camp of folks that it can go well for, is a durable power of attorney. So you're going to want to specify that. Often it'll be specified in the title, but then there will be someplace in instructions or special instructions on that power of attorney where we're going to specify I want the powers to continue even if I become incapacitated. And that seems like such a minor distinction or like a duh kind of thing, but for legal reasons has a huge impact. Then next up, if there are any guidance or conditions that you want to place on your agent's authority. If there are certain types of decisions that you don't want them involved in, if there are certain types of decisions that you do want them involved in, then we need to specify that. If there are certain powers that you want them to have, we're going to specify that. If we want this power of attorney to only be effective for a particular period of time, then we need to specify that and when it takes effect. So, an example of this might be maybe the person that I've named as my agent in my durable power of attorney is off on an extended European vacation because outside is open again
When
and
I
applicants are
opens,
allowed to go there.
I don't know if I'm going to Europe when outside opens. I
Shoot,
pick me
Europe don't
someplace
want
else.
you.
Wait, pick someplace else for me.
We're going to the Caribbean.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So outside is open again, and the person that I have in my durable power of attorney is off in the Caribbean for an extended stay. And so they're just not going to be available for this period of time. But I'm on my way to an action and I need somebody that can be here and get in to this job if I need them to do something. But I only want that person for this limited term because they're not really my long term person. Then I might do a power of attorney that has some structure or bounds on how long I want this person to serve in that agent capacity so that I know my agent is coming back in a month or two. And so I may specify once this date comes, then I want well tanned Caribbean agent who is now back to be in place. So those are things I'm going to specify. Now, another spoiler alert from what we've said when we're talking about the guidance, the conditions, the powers, when we are doing a durable power of attorney as part of our full legacy and estate planning setup for the I'm fine right now, I'm not anticipating anything, but just in case something pops off in life or with my health or whatever, I want to have a plan in place. The recommendation is that you're going to have a broad set of powers apply for what your agent is allowed to do so that whatever thing it is that comes up, they will have the documentation that they need to be able to stand in your shoes to do that for you. There may be times in life where you need to do a more limited durable power of attorney, but you're going to be thinking of that as just for this moment, for this situation. So I'm going on vacation and I'm in the middle of completing a property transaction and they need some wedding signatures and I want somebody to keep that going so that it doesn't have to stop while I'm away. Then that's a thing that I might do a more limited power of attorney for for that specific instance and period of time. But if it's part of my legacy and estate plan, then I'm going to give broad powers so that whether it's Social Security, the property situation, whatever it is, I want my person to be able to step into my shoes. Then, importantly, we need to know the date that this power of attorney is taking effect and sign your name. It doesn't have any effect until you sign your name. So you're going to put your signature on it. And then for this document, it is really important and helpful, both important and helpful to have the document notarized. When we notarize things, those are about authenticating the identity of the person whose signature it is on the document. And so, very often, an institution or an agency is not going to consider that power of attorney to have any legal effect, unless it is notarized, because what they want is some assurance that the person whose signature is on here is, in fact, the person that signed off on this document. So, to be able to empower your agent to do that job for you, go ahead and have that document notarized. Did I kid them all?
I think so.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think so. I heard I've been including bullet points or key points in the notes while you were talking, and I think that you did get them all.
Excellent.
One of the ways that I would just add here that one of the ways that it can be helpful to think about who to put in these roles, and Alicia, I'll ask you to add in your thoughts here as well, because we get this question a lot, like, well, how do I decide who should, who it should be. It'll automatically be my spouse, right? Or it'll automatically be my partner, right? Or it'll automatically be my parents or my oldest child or whatever. The answer is no. It's not automatic. That automatic is a really dicey sort of concept in this area of law. So I wouldn't rely on automatic because not a real thing. Um, but
Especially here.
yeah.
Like automatic is one thing when it's like a life or death decision that we're talking about, like healthcare, where needs to happen for this person right now. So yes, there is a hierarchy of we're going to look to the spouse first or the parent first if they're a married person, things of that nature. Totally different in this financial sphere.
Hmm.
If there is not a paper, there is no automatic unless that person already had access to this for some reason. So, like, we had a joint account. So, if there's no paper, like a durable power of attorney, then in order for your quote unquote automatic person to actually get access, they're going to court to do it.
Yeah. And so that really ties back, obviously, with the importance of having this tool. So I won't take you around that mulberry bush again, but I will add that if there are, in direct response to the question of, like, how do I decide who should be in this role, one of the things we invite people to do is to um, consider this like you consider staffing, right? This decision isn't so much about who you feel an allegiance to, right? As it is about who is going to be the most effective in the role, right? So think about what the role requires. Somebody who is acting for you is going to need to be able to communicate, right? They are going to need to be able to be reachable. Now, if your sister is your absolute best friend in the entire world, but you know good and well that her phone stays on silent, it is always on do not disturb, then
She'll never answer that phone.
if she's going to be in this role, then you all need to have a conversation about what that communication structure is going to look like, right? If your brother loves you the absolute most, if your brother is like the baby in one of these memes that's going around recently where he's dancing and talking about how he loves his sister and he's going to protect his sister, and if you come for his sister, he's going to fight you. It's these two little kids. This is adorable.
Oh,
But
I
anyway,
believe him.
if that's your brother, but your brother has not successfully balanced a checkbook since 1915, then no, I don't know if that's the right person for the role. Our job isn't really to tell you who should go in, who should be in the role and who should not, but it is to think about, because brother who has not successfully balanced a checkbook since 1915 might be so fastidious with your stuff, right? He might be the cobbler who has no shoes, right? Or the hairdresser whose hair is a mess, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that that person is disqualified, but it does mean that these are things that you should be thinking about, right? Because ultimately, you want somebody set up for success because they're acting for you. If they fail, they are failing on your behalf and also with your stuff. So
Yeah.
nobody wants that. So give it some thought. Give it some thought about who should be staffed in that role. Alicia, did you have any additional thoughts here?
Yeah, just one is that something that we say often, Jill more so than me, when we are talking to people about this is also making sure that when you are thinking about who you should put in these various roles, be thinking about who is well suited for the role, but also that you are not putting somebody in the role just because you think they should be there or it feels like the right thing to do, but it will ultimately cause them to suffer in being in that role. So, thinking about brother that's going to protect his sister and you better not come for her, or you'll have to deal with him. That may also be the brother that if something is going on with you, they will be paralyzed with what to do. And so they won't be able to stand in. And so, in that paralyzed state, they do nothing, which means
Mm-hmm.
that they are not able to be in a position to help you. But they also won't get out of the way for the next person on the list to be able to do it.
Girl, stop
So
talking
if
about
you,
my daddy. Stop.
oh, I was talking about my brother. Because that I have not seen the meme, but I'm like, was there a video camera in my childhood? Because that's my brother, who is my favorite cheerleader and is always going to do right by his baby sister. But in something like this, like he would be so devastated that he would not be able to do this job for me and to do it well. And I wouldn't want to put that on him, to burden
Exactly.
him with that. And
Exactly.
so, knowing that, it becomes important for me to think about who might be a better fit for that role. Of course, they can consult with that person if you want to give them, that can be one of your sets of guidance, to at least talk to this person, keep this person informed, but I'm not going to require them to have to do the business side of it. You could certainly put that as some guidance if you wanted to, but thinking about who you have in the job becomes important, not just for who should not do it because they wouldn't be good at it, but who should not do it because it might not be best for them to be put into this position.
Absolutely. We have talked about. Alicia laughed her head off the first time she heard this story. My dad had bought a house and was really excited to invite the family to his home. He's a lifelong bachelor. Yes, even with my mama, mind your business. And he was excited to invite everybody to his home for Thanksgiving. So we all trooped up from our various places across the country. We're coming from California and the East Coast and all over the place, and we go to his home. At the time, he was living in Atlanta, and had a wonderful holiday. The, he was such an emotional train wreck when it was time for people to leave. Like he just could not handle it. He literally got up because he could not stand to watch us depart from his home. He literally got up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. For those of you who are familiar with the geography in this area of the country, he drove himself from Atlanta to, I think he drove to Chattanooga. Chattanooga is in Tennessee, is about 3 hours away. And or an hour, no,
Crossed
is it
state
3 hours
lines and
away?
made it a
I
federal
don't, yeah,
situation.
anyway, he crossed state lines. He drove himself to an entire different state and time zone in order to avoid having to watch us leave. It's so ridiculous, but it's so completely him. There is not
So
a chance,
sweet.
there is not a chance that he can handle this type of decision making. No way. So anyway, um yeah, those are definitely points to keep in mind for staffing and for filling the role with compassion.
Mhm.
Ultimately, these these tools are tools for self-compassion and for compassion for people who care about you, right? Like that's what you're in it for. That's what you're doing it for. And so let that compassion lead. If you have any questions, any concerns, anything, put them in the comments. Chat them up to us, and we are happy to answer them here. If you are feeling shy about asking questions, or you're like me and the question doesn't even form until after you hang up the phone or after you disconnect from the conference, like, oh, I forgot to ask this thing. That's okay. You can still comment the question here. We do circle back to check for questions. You can reach us in fairly real time if you comment or DM us on Instagram. We're at Dahlaw, DAHLIA on Instagram, so you can do that. You can also email us. I'll make sure to put our contact information in the box. But yeah, while I am doing that, Alicia, do you want to? How do you feel about brainstorming some practical tips that people can implement right now?
Let me mind map it. So, some practical tips that you can implement right now. Number one is thinking about what we just talked about around the staffing part of it. Who's your team? Who do you want to put in those roles in the order that you want them to serve in that. So thinking about who you want to handle these things for you. Keep in mind they may be different than the people that you put on your medical list because different people have different strengths and different weaknesses. And so the people that can handle the medical touchy feely stuff might not be the same people for the business stuff. So thinking about who are my business people that can handle these financial things and and do well at that job. And then the second thing you're going to do is make one of these. Do it. We told you all of the things. You have the capacity to do this for yourself. The only thing that you will need to look outside of yourself for is to get the thing notarized.
Yeah,
Because even if you are a notary, you cannot notarize it for yourself.
right.
And so actually completing a power of attorney. One of the excellent things about a power of attorney is most, if not all, states are going to have a statutory form for how to do this, which is going to give you a basic setup so that you can fill in all of this information. And so we will, right?
We
Link
did
to
already. We
oh,
actually
okay,
have a
perfect.
form for when we did the emergency toolkit. It was actually episode number two, one. It was one of the earlier episodes because we have so many now. We have
Yeah.
nine now. So
We'll look back
yeah,
in the archives.
right. No, it was one of the earlier episodes, and yeah, we have a form there that's already put together for California. Not all states have a statutory form. However, most court, but many do, and the local court website for whatever area you're in. Where we are in Oakland, it's the Alameda County court, but your locality might do it a bit differently. But look for your local court, and then look for their forms section on their website. It might be in its own forms section. It might be in the self help center of the website, but there's probably a form for a power of attorney in there. And if not, then you can also check with your local community bank or community credit union. They might have a form as well. And if none of that works, just reach out to us. I'm sure that we can help you. We
Yeah.
can help direct you to somewhere.
Yeah, and one last place that you can look for a form if one exists in your state is if look for the nearest law school that is
Mm-hmm.
in your state and look for the law library.
Yep.
And the law libraries will often on their website have a list of some statutory or basic template forms that you can use as an excellent starting place for this.
Yeah. These resources, some of you who were with us for the episode on how to hire and pay for the right lawyer, in that episode, excuse me, in that episode, we talked about some alternatives for if hiring a lawyer right now or pay a lawyer right now is just not what you have access to. So we provided some self help resources and things like that in that episode. So that's a good one to go back and check for also.
Nifty.
All right, so I don't have any questions in, so let's go ahead and close it out and release people into their day. Thank you all so much for being here with us. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you to the rest of you who are here whose names I might not know because I don't know if I can see everybody. But thank you very much for your presence. It is our hope that this is useful. It is our intention to be of service. And so if we have achieved that, don't tell us, tell somebody else. Share this information with another person. Share it and encourage them to share it broadly. Share the resource of these live streams with another person and encourage them to share it broadly. Again, not because it helps us, but because it helps us to carry out our intention to be of service. This information does not have to be, it does not have to be confusing. It does not have to be difficult to understand, and it does not have to be for other people. This is for you. We are for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Alicia. You were about to say something.
I was just going to say that thinking about the we've seen it go well, you deserve for it to go well for you and for
Hey,
your people. So
hey.
this is the empowerment to make sure that you have what you deserve.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we will see you all back here on next Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. And next Wednesday we will be sort of wrapping up this first section of the estate planning tools basics, or what we're calling sort of the nitty gritty, and preparing ourselves to dive into trusts and wills, which are two things that some folks only think about when it comes to this work, and we intentionally did not do them first for that reason, because there's some other considerations that are highly important. All right, y'all, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Say bye to the people, Alicia.
Bye, people.
All right, happy Wednesday, y'all. Have a good rest of the week.